I started to realize, yeah, you're getting a higher salary, you're getting a higher wage, but they're also taking a lot more than just their pound of flesh. And I felt like the company was getting a much higher return on my effort than I was getting.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. Please consult a professional advisor before making decisions based on what you hear on this show.
Welcome back to the Wealth About Wall Street podcast. I'm your host, Russ Morio. We're here discussing why working harder forever shouldn't be the goal. Now, it may have felt that way. Maybe you're in that grind right now. If it is, hopefully we're going to shine some light on some ways that you can get out of that and maybe even touch base into why you feel that way. Thankfully, I'm not the only one having this conversation. I'm surrounded by the dream team of coaches. To my right, my partner, the Italian Stallion, Mr. Joe Murray. Stallion, good afternoon.
Hey, good to be with you, my friend.
Stallion, what did working hard used to mean to you, and when did that definition start to feel unsustainable?
Man, I'll tell you, I think I'm just like most people. I was told, go to school, get good grades, work hard, go to college, get a degree, get a job, grow on that job, go up the corporate ladder, and eventually you'll retire. Man, that's the path to success. And I actually started to equate the fact that a higher income was going to equal financial success or freedom. And it was once I got there, I was making over $300,000 a year in the mortgage industry. I look up and I'm like, where's my family? Where's my time? Where's my ability to choose what I want to do with that time? It was all being taken from me. You know, you look at your calendar app on your phone, you see those color-coded boxes. All those boxes were filled in on my behalf with other people's agenda. And I was a slave to that. That no longer could be a definition that was sustainable because I wasn't willing to give up all of my freedom and all of my time. And to look down the road 40 years, I was like, something's got to give. This is not the right way.
If you feel that way, this is something that you're resonating with, man, we got a lot more to come. How many summers do you have left with your kids? 10, maybe less?
And are you spending them together, or are you still stuck in the office while time slips by?
You want freedom. That's not the problem. The problem is you don't have a system that buys back your time. Without it, 3 years from now, your kids will be older and they won't care that your business was more successful. They'll remember you weren't there.
That's why we built the Passive Income Operating System, the plan we use to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. The system isn't free, but the training that shows you how it works is, and it's under an hour.
Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/PIOS. Take the first step to buying back your time now. Marcus, let me introduce the retiree of the group, Mark Haraguchi. Welcome to have you back, Mark.
Afternoon, good to be back.
All right, Mark, you've flown a lot of planes, man. I want to ask you this question too. Have you ever had a year where you made more than ever, but still felt more trapped than free?
What is yes, Russ? Yes, absolutely. So airlines, flying airplanes, it was great. One of the cool things about flying airplanes is you have contractual raises. So every year you're getting a raise. So every year I'm actually making more money than I did the year before. And what happened was I was blessed to get into a position where I had moved into the training department. So now I'm not just flying airplanes, but I'm actually training folks, doing ground school, doing simulator sessions, doing airplane training, but also writing lesson plans, filling out paperwork, doing a lot more stuff above and beyond the hours that were there. And I started to realize, yeah, you're getting a higher salary, you're getting a higher wage, but they're also taking a lot more than just their pound of flesh. And I felt like the company was getting a much higher return on my effort than I was getting. And so that was when I kind of decided, okay, this needs to be rethought.
Guys, I needed to make sure that we got this mathematically correct. So I brought in a recovering CPA, Mr. Anthony Fazzo. Good to have you back in, my brother.
Always great to be here.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit, just keeping the subject matter of kind of like, what did it feel like? So what was the emotional toll for you, or what does the emotional toll take when you feel like you can't step away?
Well, I would tell you, what it was, I was present, but I wasn't present, meaning I was physically there, but mentally I was not. Mentally, I was still worried about things going on in the business and work. So what that not being present meant that I wasn't being the best husband that I could be. I wasn't being the best father or the best friend. And just that toll was just on my personal lives. Everything was taking it. And I wasn't being able to focus on, to me, what was the most important to me.
I think a lot of times I get this question like, why do people wait so long to ask that question? How do I exit the grind? And I feel like there's this level of, as business owners, high income earners, we tend to be overwhelmed, usually from the businesses that we're working in. And that makes it harder for us to prioritize, right? Like we think, all right, I'm making more money. That means I have more responsibility. So I tend to shift my personal responsibilities and priorities to the side. Oh, I'll pick them up later. You know what? I'm making more money. I have this huge to-do list at work. I don't have time. So I procrastinate on doing the things at home. And a lot of times because we don't even know what to do. So I think that if you keep telling yourself that things are going to slow down and they never have, so you probably are starting to feel like this is why I maybe feel like I'm behind. I wish I was further along than I am today. Well, there are answers to this. And that's really what I want us to dive into now, guys. I want to get into some of the actual practical nuts and bolts about what is keeping people stuck, right, in this position, but also some of the things that you're seeing that you're helping people do to get out of that. So coming to you, Anthony, kind of right out of the gate here, I want to dive into this specific question is what are most high income earners actually missing in their wealth plan, in your opinion?
Well, most time they are focused on building net worth, but that's not going to be able to buy back their time, allow them to live that lifestyle that they want. So we need to pivot from focusing on building our net worth to focus on building that passive income, that cash flow. Now that can allow you to eventually, as we know, we describe financial freedom as your passive income being more than the monthly expenses. So we need to pivot from focus on net worth to focus on building passive income.
Yeah, I love that. Mark, why does traditional financial advice fall short in this category? What are people who are earning $500,000 or more not getting?
Well, I can tell you what they are getting. They're getting told max out your 401k, max out your 401k. That's a way to reduce your taxable burden. But they're not actually telling them also about the other trade-offs, right? Which is, well, but it's only going to put a dent, if anything, in your AGI. And really, it's only deferring the tax to some point in the future. And you can't actually access that capital until you're 59 and a half. So there's some pretty hefty trade-offs. And so when you realize that, handing over control and waiting decades, that's not really a freedom plan. That's a very immediate reactive to an acute problem that you're seeing, but it's not a strategy for long-term sustainability. I actually have another couple, and he sent me this really awesome ChatGPT spreadsheet of his finances because he's trying to justify, hey, we should consider liquidating this qualified account and then put it into this infinite bank strategy. And he's trying to justify it with his wife. And he goes, well, the strategy we've been doing now is we're pulling a little bit out and then pushing it over to our qualified so that we can reduce our taxable burden. And I said, till when? Because you're still going to have to pay that at some point. So you didn't eliminate the tax, air quotes, you deferred the tax. And so again, I don't mind people making decisions, just know what the fallout and why you're making a decision. And he hadn't thought about that aspect of it.
Hey, keeping with what Mark's talking about there, Joey, how does the accumulation model keep people stuck in the grind?
I'll tell you, there's two possible ways there, both practically and philosophically. One, practically, passive income greater than monthly expenses is what we define as financial freedom. When you accumulate money alone, you're just stacking up dollars. It never will produce a passive income, not until much, much, much later in life when all of the things that you're trying to accomplish today have passed you by. Secondly, philosophically, it is based off of retirement retirement is a scam. It is to be taken out of service, which we all know that we are called to make a difference, to impact, to serve others. Like that's why we're here. And for us to be out of service is opposed from a biblical standpoint. Not to mention, it also is predicated on the idea that you can defer life to some later time, like we're guaranteed tomorrow. Again, biblically, we are not guaranteed tomorrow. So why would we continue to just stack up cash and stack up cash and stack up cash and defer life so that one day we can live like no one else? Because guess what? You may not even have your health at that point. You may not have your family who you want to spend time with now available, or some things have changed in that relationship. So those things are making you continue to grind today. And by the way, the advisors who are getting paid fee income are getting paid today on your dollars that are being accumulated for tomorrow. I think they have the right idea. We have the wrong idea.
Good point.
I want to stay with that because I think there's this lie, as you were kind of referencing, Joey, that has been sold. And I can tell you that firsthand because I worked on Wall Street, right? I was a certified financial planner, investment advisor, and I was professionally trained how to separate people from their money. Like what you were talking about. I was teaching the accumulation approach. Now, I wasn't doing it from the mindset, oh, I want their fees of their money. I'll never give it back to them. I wouldn't have thought about it that way. But as I evaluated what actually practically we did, that's what we did, right? Like we accumulated their money. We made it as hard as possible for them to get it back. And we kept it as long as we could. I mean, that was the conversation. Then there's the other side of the approach that I think there's a lie that either we've sold to ourselves as business owners, or maybe, we've believed from others, is that we believe that our business is going to be our exit plan, meaning it's going to provide retirement for us. But yet I think the statistics say that only 20 to 30% of businesses actually sell. So if you're the other 70 to 80% of the people and you get to that point and there's not a business to sell because it's more of a lifestyle business, meaning you've built the business for you. And when you're in the business, it's providing income, it's providing enjoyment. But when you exit it, there is no value. And most small businesses are built that way. Take the owner, founder out of them, and they're probably not worth a whole lot. And I think that that's a lie that we have been believing that our business was going to be this exit strategy, but yet we never have built anything else. We haven't found a way to turn our active incomes into passive income. And we're good at building things. This should be an element, right? I do believe that our businesses are great income earners and that, if you're a part of that 7 to 8% of entrepreneurs out there and you're building a business, great, double down, triple down. But also you've got to start then transitioning some of that cash flow that's coming out and start building the moat around your lifestyle. You need to do what Joey just said. We need to get to where our passive income exceeds our monthly expenses. And you should be doing that as quickly as possible. The lie is that, oh, your business will take care of it. Well, ask yourself the question, what happens if I can't sell my business? Then what? Right? Like time is going to keep ticking one way or another. So this is an element that I would challenge you, if you're a business owner, to not buy the lie that your business will be the exit strategy. If it is, let that be the cherry on top. But go ahead and build the passive income that exceeds your monthly expenses well before you get to that point. I think therein lies the goal that we need to be taken away.
There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, "Pop quiz day." Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared, though, for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
All right. I want to talk about escaping the grime here.
Russ, do you mind? I would say I have a real life example from what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's when I had my CPA firm, that was part of the ultimate plan, that I'm building up this business that I can eventually sell. And when I did go to sell it, I literally got 50% of what I was expecting. And it's because just what you said, there was an earn out, right? And people were going to get their taxes done by Anthony, not by the CPA firm. So when I left, they didn't come back. So the guy who bought it's like paid me on who came back. So if I fortunately I learned that lesson early, but I couldn't imagine if you're on there and this is your only nest egg and you get half of what you had planned, you don't have that time to really to have a plan B.
No, for sure. Well, staying with you then, talk about escaping the grind. What was the first step you took to start buying back your time, Anthony?
Well, I mean, it's funny that you use, or maybe it's not funny, but you use the phrase "buy back your time." I actually read a book by that same title by Dan Martell, I believe. Man, amazing book. Because oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we get so busy. Like for me, I was so burnt out in the CPA firm. I just wanted out. If I would hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't have sold it, knowing what I know now. But as far as buying back the time, I learned a few simple strategies from that book. So Russ, you asked for one, I'm going to give you two. Okay. But one simple one was throughout the day, I did it every 15 minutes, but what I would do, and of course I had a spreadsheet because I'm a CPA, but I just documented what I was doing and did it fill my cup or did it drain my cup? Just real simple, plus or minus. And then what I realized, there was a lot of things that were draining me that I could delegate, or maybe I didn't even need to do anymore. And so then the question gets to be, how do we rationalize delegating or paying somebody to do something that I can do? And that's hard for me because I'm frugal. Why would I pay somebody to do something when I can do it and I'm going to do a quote unquote better job, right? But what I learned in the book was we need to quantify the value of your time. And the exercise he did was to go look at your tax return or your W-2 and how much money did you make, and add back any sort of personal expenses that you wrote off or 401k contributions, but what you actually made, and divide that by 2,080. So that gives you the equivalent of what you earn on a 40 hours a week. And so you take that number, let's say, for example, that number is $100. Well, we always want to have leverage and be wise with our money. So Dan said, divide that by 4. And then so those things that aren't filling your cup, if you pay somebody $25 to what you are earning an hour, then that is a good use of your time. And really what I realized looking back, I could have paid somebody $25 to do that, but I was paying a premium for the best employee to do it for 100 when it could have been done simply with a quarter of the price.
Good practical example there. Stallion, we discussed this concept of an investor DNA. I'd love for you to kind of unpack that for the person listening. How does that help someone making a lot of money and income build a plan that could fit them?
Well, first and foremost, to your point, the investor DNA is a profile, personality assessment, if you will, that we created that helps you to determine what sort of investor you are. Most people are chasing ROI and they're just investing because there's all this noise and so had good success with this, or man, there's this new crypto that you should look into. And you're just kind of, meandering around trying to figure out what you should be doing. And it usually get led to the slaughter as a result. The investor DNA helps you cut through the noise and say, man, what sort of investor am I? How has God created me to see the world with my resources, my experiences, and my strengths and weaknesses, and what passive income sources? We have a matrix that goes with it that explains what I would actually really enjoy and what I really wouldn't enjoy. And the key to it, this is like step one in anybody having success to build a plan that fits them, is you got to know who you are so that then you can define your buy box. And when you have those two things in place, you can now say no very fast. In fact, I've heard it said, I can't quote it to be, perfect, but that Warren Buffett is super successful, not because of all the things he invests in, but because of all the things he says no to. And it's because he has a very defined buy box. He knows exactly how he can buy a company and make a difference or an impact on that company that will then drive results. And I think if we all knew that, man, we would be able to run super fast.
Mark, the other thing that people usually come to us and ask for our help in is helping them with the concept called infinite banking. So how does something like infinite banking give people more control, more access to capital?
So I've got a couple I work with, really good friends, and they just ran out of ideas. They followed the traditional, they maxed out their qualified plans. But even in doing that, they have now amassed 7 figures in savings because they just don't know what to do. And so as we were talking, she said, well, here's what I want. I want some measure of control. I'm like, got it. But I really want this to be like an opportunity bucket or an emergency bucket so that if something comes along, if we see an investment that we might want to do, we can go do it. If we have a need, like a housing project, perfect. We can go do the rehab, or my kids are getting ready for college. I can go do that. So she personified the liquidity and control aspect. She needed liquidity, but she wanted control, but she wanted it in a place where she understood what was happening to it. And it wasn't subject to, boy, I really hope we don't decide to put more tariffs. Boy, I really hope we don't have XYZ administration. Oh, I really hope we don't make these changes or that. Things that she has no real measure of control. I know we all get a vote in this country, but your vote is one of millions. And so you might be outvoted as to what you want to have happen. And so she wanted a place where she could have this measure of control and accessibility. And so in looking at this infinite banking concept, right, the Nelson Nash's idea of a practical application of how to think about money. And so for the first time, she now feels wholly in control of her capital. And she knows that if she goes to utilize this opportunity fund, she's not stunting its growth like she would have if she had chopped off the branches of the tree in order to get the apples. And so by leaving it working in this mechanism, which is something we help our clients figure out and really uncover, but that's what she wanted. And I said, well, perfect. You've come to the right spot. Let's get you started.
As you're listening to this, Tribe, I just want to point this out. I think if I go back and add to what are one of the bigger lies that we're told, the more money we make, and is that that income is going to solve the problem. And what we commonly have seen, I mean, I've seen thousands of personal profit and loss statements. And that's one of the things that if one of our coaches helps our clients work through is the cash flow analysis, understanding where those gaps are, where are the opportunities for us to free up cash flow so we can start buying assets, so we can become a better investor. But I think that you need to understand that most of the people don't have an income problem that we're talking to. They have a system problem. Right? You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the levels of your systems. And there's not been a system that's helped you. It's not a lack of desire that you want to become financially free. When you talk about it and you start verbalizing it, writing down the goals, you start seeing the missed opportunities. You see that your kids are no longer 6, 8, 10, 12. No, they're 18, 20, 22, and 24. And you start to lament. You start getting nostalgic about what happened? How did time go fast? So fast. And it is a system that we lack. If we can implement the system, we can accelerate. I think there's a lie that believes it's going to take a long time. We say commonly in our meetings that we know the formula for financial freedom is easy, but the work to accomplish it is hard. It doesn't mean it will take forever. We've seen people accelerate to that freedom point really fast, especially if you're making lots of money. If you have assets, you can turn it on. And if you're working 9 to 5, well, what about the 5 to 9s, the before, the after? Just know that the lie that is being told to you that it's going to take forever, that there's not you just need to make more money. Most of you are making a lot of money. You just don't have a great system. So let's talk about, just as we start to wrap this up, Mark, I'll come back to you and kind of, what could someone do this week, right? What could they do to help them? So, what would you say to the version of yourself who thought maybe working harder would create freedom?
Oh, I already had that conversation. What is the point that popped into my head of that is there's only so many hours in a day. And what I had experienced of working extra hours to try to make more money, to make more, was I was burnt out so that the time that I did have off, I was useless. It really wasn't time off, it was recovery. And so if you're constantly recovering just so that you can go back to the company to go make more money, I don't think that's living. And so my question to you is, how do you want your life to look? And so for me, I realized I wanted to do a little bit more with my time on here than just hauling people from A to B.
Anthony, if someone listening is feeling stuck, what's the first thing they can do this week to change that?
Well, I think the first thing they need to do is to take action. And one of my mentors had told me, you can only manage what you measure. So if your goal is to create passive income, you need to start using that as your measuring stick. Where are you at? Maybe it's 0, or maybe you're at 5 or a few thousand, but you need to figure out wherever you're at and then to wherever you want to be. You need to start taking some action to be able to fill that gap. And one piece, Russ, you'd mentioned is that personal profit and loss statement. I see oftentimes people want to have their passive income more than the monthly expenses, but oftentimes people don't really know what their monthly expenses are. They just kind of have this idea. But if you could go through that and through that detail, you might be able to find ways to lower it. And maybe there's some fat, and maybe you can use that extra money and put that into your system to create passive income, which is kind of sounds almost like the passive income operating system. But
Sounds a lot like.
again, you need a system.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. I think a lot of us have stuck our heads in the sand and just decided that, oh, I'll just out earn my expenses.
Mm.
And the question is if you couldn't work tomorrow, what would your lifestyle look like for the next 12 months, 24 months? How long could you maintain your lifestyle if you stopped working tomorrow? That's probably the jolt that many of us need to say, ooh, maybe I should start building the system these guys are talking about. Maybe I should start understanding what this family banking, infinite banking concept would do in my life. What does understanding how the investor DNA and the buy box play into my strategy? If I have a tax problem, do I know how to get out of it? Do I know who to connect with? Stallion, what's one other thing that you'd send people off with, knowing what you know now, that they could take and apply maybe this week?
Well, I want to make this super practical for you as you're listening, and you're nodding your head and you're saying, yes, I actually bought into this accumulation lie, this retirement lie. I am regretting not being present with my family. I am stuck on the hamster wheel, right? If you're nodding the whole time, I'm going to give you 3 simple steps. 1, go take our quiz to find out where you're at, right? Go to wealth.wallstreet.com/quiz. Find out how close you are to financial freedom. You may be discouraged initially, but at least you know where you start. You think about a GPS. If you have a place that you're trying to get to, a destination, but you don't know where you're at, you really have no steps to take. But take that quiz, find out where you're at. Now you know how far it's going to take you to get to your destination. Number 2, set up the system. I look back, Russ, and I think about this. In 2010, when I set up my first system with you, I didn't know how to be an investor. I knew that I needed to get capital back into my control, but I didn't know that that was going to help me become an investor. But having the system forced me to then take the 3rd step. So 1 step, find out where you're at with the quiz. 2, set up the system, start gaining access to your own capital so that you can become an investor. Is step 3, join us in the Passive Income Lab. This is where we literally go 12 weeks with a group to uncover your investor DNA, your investor buy box, to be able to read pro formas and pitch decks and PPMs so that you're equipped to make your first $500 in passive income. If you can get $500 a month, and that's our guarantee in the first 12 weeks, you're gonna figure that out. When you get that first 500, it gives you all the confidence and the courage in the world to keep stacking to the next 500 and the next 500. And all of a sudden you can say, man, I'm there. And you can be just like the testimonials that we have in that lab, that they are now confident that they're on their path to doing exactly what we're talking about today. That is breaking out of this hamster wheel, this rat race.
All right, coaches, thank you so much for the feedback. Thank you for listening. Hard work builds income, but systems build freedom. Go build yours. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.